All right, so it's good to be back with you. A lot is happening, a lot has been happening astrologically, a lot happening for us collectively, individually, and these astrological events, well, they are not just things to be spoken of in the sense of, well, identifying and speaking about these astrological events. They are processes that we undergo, they are inner processes. So as we are mindful of the astrology, as we note what is going on, we are involved in participating in these astrological events and unfoldments, in that they're not just things to be spoken of intellectually. They happen. They are processes happening and unfolding within our individual and collective psyche. And so, friends, as we go through massive inner psychic changes individually and collectively, we are living through these energies, and they're not just things that we pop up on a video and talk about. They are things that we have to undergo and to live out and to experience the changes in our own consciousness, experience the changes in the structure of our consciousness as symbolized by the astrology. But the astrology would be symbolic of processes happening within us and inside of us. So that's something that we want to just put on the table. And so I myself, I've had to, in the last year or two, I've been, let's say, involved, as we all have been, in a series of changes, experiencing them, not just being able to point to them on an astrological map, but having to go through human learning, having to, as all of us are in this together at this time on our world, we are going through it as an experience, growing and learning in our human identities. And so just to put that preface there, that the astrology is something that we live out, and these are processes happening inside of us, and we have to experience them. All right, so having said all of that, we are approaching the Leo new moon, which happens on August 16th. So the sun and the moon there joining up at 23 degrees of Leo. And so it's a good time to step back and to talk about Leo astrological energies, the Leo astrological template. So we're going to step back today and just talk about this theme. All right, so signs, the signs of the zodiac. So Leo would be an example of a living sign field. And so signs of the zodiac are living fields that represent portions of the human anatomy or structure of consciousness. So when we look at these signs and apply it to human life, we are looking at fields of energy that would help us to make sense of the human anatomy or structure of consciousness, the psychic structure of the human. And so clearly, we observe sign principles in nature, and signs would have a much larger scope of application than human consciousness. But since you are a human consciousness, we are inhabiting a human consciousness, meaning that we are observing reality from the standpoint of being a human consciousness. We want to bring the astrology alive in such a way that would help us to mirror our own consciousness to us. So we want to look, and we can look at the astrology for this sort of deeper understanding of our human template and how to express it in ever more dignified ways. And dignified is a good Leo word. So Leo, a sign, the fifth sign in the zodiacal progression, the fifth sign of the zodiac that helps us to unlock codes in terms of the essential dignity of our being, the essential dignity of the human being. And so the perspective that we want to bring across when it comes to Leo is this: fulfillment of the Leo template has to do with showing the self with dignity. So Leo involves this radiating of the fullness of the self. And so if we were to put Leo as a kind of verb, it would be on one level to radiate the fullness of the self. So Leo, inherent self-worth and awareness of one's own goodness, the rightness of who you are within creation, the dignity that comes from being an aspect of creation, and the dignity of feeling that there is a sacred presence and intelligence that runs through you. You are it and it is you. And it is its pleasure to be you, and it is your pleasure to be it. So this presence and this intelligence, this sacred intelligence, you belong to it, and it dignifies you. And so when you are aware of this presence inside of you, when you feel it inside of you, you become aware of your own rightness. So Leo has to do with displaying the self with glory and dignity. So again, knowing your own inherent dignity and worth and radiating who you are in your fullest expression. So pride is a word that we would associate with Leo, and pride would have various connotations, but on the, let's say, more noble end, pride would mean recognizing the goodness and rightness of who you are. So pride would mean to assume the dignity that comes from the essential rightness of who you are inside of creation, within creation. So pride would come from, let's say, your blessedness in existence. So Leo would speak to the right that you have to the most fulfilled expression of your individual being, of who you are. This is the Leo template. So we're discussing the structure of the Leo template. So in nature, we would see the most beautiful flower or the most elegant bird. And as we look at nature, as we look at a beautiful flower in the garden or a bird, an elegant bird, we can see quite plainly that they do not have to be convinced of their own rightness. It's something that, as we look at them, the flower, the bird, they are aware of this rightness at the deepest levels of their being. And so the flower, the elegant bird, they express themselves with natural dignity and grace. And so they express themselves with a certain resplendence because of feeling the joy of being that comes from feeling this sort of sacred presence inside of them and reveling in their personal expression of that sacred presence. And so a flower being beautiful does not need permission. It simply recognizes its own dignity and expresses it naturally and fully. And so in the animal kingdom, Leo, the lion, the feline kingdom would also demonstrate this kind of template. So the feline kingdom, lions, all of that, well, they have an awareness of, again, their own rightness and dignity. And so even your house cat would carry themselves in a way that displays and demonstrates this natural understanding of their own rightness. And we see this reflected in the animal kingdom, again, lions being associated with the sign of Leo. And think about the way that a lion would walk about. It would strut. It would have an intrinsic awareness of its own rightness. The lion, as they traverse their environment and habitat. So this is why you want to pay attention to the natural world, to help you to unlock these natural codes within your human template. And so let's talk about another word that we would associate with Leo, royalty. Yes. So we've said pride, we've said dignity. Those are the two words that we've been mentioning and talking about. Rightness. Now, royalty, something again that we associate with the sign of Leo. Leo being linked to royalty, kings and queens. So the true basis of royalty, friends, is the inner dignity that comes from the source of your own being. So the true basis of royalty is directly perceiving your own intrinsic dignity, meaning you're not waiting to be told that you are okay. It's a direct perception of your own rightness. So through direct knowing that comes from connection to the source of your being. So by divine right, I am a being of dignity. And the way how we have treated with royalty on the planet historically would amount to a distortion of the natural Leo template, a distortion of the Leo architecture in the sign field. So what we've done on the planet is to worship royalty, to elevate royalty at the expense of recognizing our own rightness and dignity. And that would be, or would amount to, a distortion of the Leo template, sign field architecture. And so royalty in its truest sense again comes from direct perception of your own inner dignity, which makes you walk with pride. That is the true basis of royalty. A direct inner perception of your own rightness that comes from the source of your own being, meaning that which gives you life, some deeper force that runs through you. And as you perceive it in you, it allows you to perceive your own dignity and rightness. So, a knowledge of your essential rightness would do what? Give you more confidence. It would instill you with confidence. Yes. And so confidence would be another Leo word. So by knowing your own essential rightness, that knowing would instill you with more confidence. And in turn, when you feel more confidence, you feel more joy in your being. So 2 more words there as we build out the structure of this Leo template. As we describe it, it's confidence. Confidence that gives rise to joy. Yes. So Leo represents a template that has to do with radiating who you are in a sense, or from a sense of intrinsic rightness, which inspires you to fulfill more and more of your natural capabilities. So Leo has to do with bringing the capabilities of your unique personhood to a height of expression. So when you feel your own rightness, that inspires, again, one more Leo word, it inspires you to fulfill more of your natural capabilities, bringing these out, radiating them, fully expressing them. So when you are aware of your own rightness, you have a dignity that is not fundamentally or essentially dependent on being affirmed by what is outside of you. You feel your own rightness and dignity intrinsically, which inspires you to continue to express your being in ever more expanded ways. And so when you feel your own rightness, you want to express who you are with effervescence. And so Leo is a fire sign, the fire element, the idea of expressing a spark of existence with effervescence, buoyancy, a spark. So when you feel your own rightness, it is natural to express that rightness. It becomes natural to express who you are, to bring out the fullest expression of who you are, to radiate that. Yes, and so, of course, the sun would be the natural planetary ruler of Leo. The sun, radiance of your unique personhood. So Leo would be symbolic of the need to express who you are authentically, and to also have the fullness and rightness of who you are seen, recognized, and acknowledged. So let's unpack that. Leo, the need to express who you are authentically and to have that authentic self and the fullness and rightness of that self, to have that be seen, be recognized, and be acknowledged. So Leo would describe the need to have outlets and avenues where the fullness of who you are in all of your gifts can be seen and recognized to be good. So Leo has to do with giving others the chance to admire, appreciate, and recognize an instant of rightness. And so when you radiate yourself from the core of who you are in your rightness, the natural structure of that is that it stirs the psyche of others. It triggers something in other people to express themselves in their own rightness. So it triggers something in other people to get in touch with and fulfill the capacities of their own natural rightness. So, in other words, there is a relationship between your own awareness of your rightness and other people being inspired to do the same. So when you radiate personal authenticity, that extends an energetic invitation for others to do the same. So Leo, as a structure, is at once an inner recognition of your own rightness. Yes, so you feel it inside of who you are. But as you express your own rightness, as you express who you are, Leo also is or embodies in its structure admiration, appreciation by others of the natural you. And so it has, let's say, a sort of two-tone structure in that you feel your own rightness, and in radiating that, you give others the chance to recognize your rightness as right, to recognize your own good, the good that you offer in your natural uniqueness. So Leo, as a structure, it invites us, it's a template, it holds a template that invites us to fulfill ourselves as individual aspects of creation. It invites us to fulfill the unique structure of our own individuality and to know its rightness as a distinct and singular expression of creation. That is the deeper Leo template. Now, having described that, we can now talk about where the Leo template has been distorted or warped. And so how do we see that warping of this Leo template within human relationships and in human society? Well, the first thing we can talk about is, or one example would be putting down people who express their fullness as showing off. So someone is radiating who they are, and we say, oh, that person is showing off. So you're putting down someone's unique expression by saying you have no right to fully express who you are in your own rightness, because that means showing off. But also, on the other side, showing off, true showing off, would itself be a distortion of that Leo template, because showing off for status or showing off for things that do not come from the rightness of the self would amount to a distortion. So the right kind of quote unquote showing off, the right kind of showing off, so to speak, is the natural grace, the natural effervescence that comes from the rightness of who you are. As we mentioned, as a flower does not hold back from expressing the fullness of its beauty, it is right for a flower to come into its fullest expression of beauty. That would be the right kind of showing off, fulfillment of your natural capabilities because of your own inner sense of your own rightness. That's the right kind of showing off. So showing off for status or showing off for things that are external to the self would be a distortion of that Leo template. Other distortions of the Leo template have to do with fear of being seen, fear of expressing the fullness of your natural self, fear of radiating your own resplendence. So you stifle your natural capacities because you are afraid of expressing yourself. So you make yourself smaller. So you are afraid of assuming and knowing your own dignity. In many ways, we have been actively encouraged away from that into being smaller than we are. And think about it, the structure of royalty on the planet, in what has been modeled to us as royalty, would amount to a way in which we have been actively discouraged from expressing our own dignity, a fear of our own dignity, being smaller than we really are. So others are royalty, but we are small. We are small creatures, and we must cower and be smaller than we really are. So Leo would present a sort of template, or would suggest a way of dealing with that fear of being seen. The way of dealing with the fear of being seen, or one way of dealing with the fear of being seen, is to understand yourself within a broader spiritual soul and energetic context. So a sacred, creative intelligence in which your being is housed wants to express itself through you, to imbue you with the joy that comes from knowing yourself as it, and for it to receive the joy of knowing itself as you. So, in existing as an aspect of creation, you are meant to bring yourself to natural fulfillment of your capabilities. Also, from a service standpoint, from a soul purpose standpoint, it would be important to fulfill your natural capacities, because fulfilling these natural talents and capacities is how you serve the needs of other human beings. It's how you play a broader collective role. And that leads us to the Leo Aquarius polarity and shows us a pathway toward Leo Aquarius polarity integration. So, as I sense and as I know my rightness, and as I express and fulfill my own individual capacities as a unique aspect of creation, my broader social and collective role and purpose is defined. As I am myself in my uniqueness, as I express that uniqueness and feel my own rightness, that helps me to define my broader social and collective role. So your contribution to humanity, to your community, Aquarius, depends on you knowing your inherent rightness and fulfilling that. So your broader social role and contribution to your community and to humanity depends on fulfilling the natural capabilities of your individual personhood, Leo. So you have to be assured of your own natural dignity, Leo, to be inspired to fulfill these natural capacities and talents. So on the collective level, we are seeing, especially with things like social media, major distortions and also manipulations, we could say, of that Leo template or architecture. So there would be this manipulation of the human being's need for the natural rightness of who they are, the natural goodness to be seen and known. So each person has a need to feel their own natural rightness and to have that natural authentic rightness be seen and recognized by someone else. We each have that, to feel our own rightness within and to have that natural authentic rightness be witnessed by another. Yes. So that's natural and that is good and quite correct in the Leo template. So with social media, we could say that there are, in many instances, addictive psychic loops built into the structure of some of these technologies and platforms that tend to warp and distort the innocence of an individual's need to be seen and known for their rightness. So the innocent human, yes, with a need to be seen and to be embraced for their own rightness and natural dignity in creation, that very need, that core need, is distorted because with social media there is often this addiction to external affirmation without the piece that has to do with the intrinsic dignity and seeing your own inner dignity. And so the addiction to external affirmation, well, that external affirmation cannot truly satisfy a person because what they're seeking is the basic sense of security that sensing their own rightness gives. So there is no shortcut here in terms of what the Leo template is suggesting. A person cannot truly be satisfied by external affirmation only. And so creating an addiction to that would be empty because it has to go along with the Leo template has to have within that someone sensing their own rightness and the sense of security that sensing your own rightness would give you. So again, nothing is wrong with having someone see who you are and like who you are and respect and admire and approve of who you are. All these Leo words. But that has to go hand in hand with the security that comes with sensing your own rightness. And so what we've done, or many platforms have done, is to decouple these two things that have to go together. So from that perspective, with many of these platforms, well, it's like chewing gum. You become hungrier and hungrier the more you chew. So that void of wanting to be recognized and seen, that natural desire, well, it becomes a void now. You become more disconnected from your own intrinsic sense of rightness the more you become involved in basing your sense of security on externally sourced validation, when what you're seeking is the fullness of knowing your own rightness and goodness. So knowing it directly, perceiving it directly, feeling your own worth as a unique individual aspect of creation. Yes. So Leo, a sign that would be associated with children. It's so important because in the childhood phase is when human beings must be made aware of their own rightness. So Leo, as the childhood phase, is a phase in which children must be made aware of their own rightness. Children, they demonstrate this Leo template quite beautifully. So a child might make you something, a drawing. They want you to look at it to recognize the rightness of themselves that they feel and the joy of their own self-expression. They want you as their parent to affirm and mirror that joy back to them. So children would come into the world with a relatively undistorted Leo template. They feel more of their own joy, of their own rightness, and they often do things that express that, and they make you a drawing or something and they say, "Mom, look at this thing I made. See it as good. See me as good. I'm sharing with you my natural sense of my own rightness. I'm spontaneously expressing my heart." So when they draw something for you as this expression of who they are, they want to share who they are with you. And so we see the Leo template in action. And so sharing of the self, natural, spontaneous, open-hearted sharing of the self from a sense of natural rightness is the Leo template. And when a child is wounded, their natural Leo effervescence is often shut down, that natural spontaneity, and that goes into and would often affect their ability to love openly. And so we've been having Venus retrograde in Leo. Lessons to do with giving of the heart, loving, and where that is tied to a willingness to share of the self, to feel the self's rightness and to share the self. So in many ways, if you can't share yourself in joy, that would get in the way of the heart. It would obstruct the heart. So we can think about that in this Venus retrograde period. When you are unable to radiate the essence of who you are, when that is shut down, it shuts down and obstructs the heart, being able to give from the heart. Wounding of the child often involves where they are not acknowledged for the basic rightness of who they are. And so they enter the world with this sense of rightness that can be shut down by parents, caregivers, family, etc. So planets and points in Leo are where lessons to do with this Leo template are being played out. Issues to do with giving of the self, radiating the self from a place of rightness, worth, and dignity. So planets in Leo are where we are playing out those lessons. So planets in Leo represent dimensions of our psyche in which we are learning and playing out Leo lessons. So open-heartedness, big-heartedness, joy, spontaneity, creativity, generosity, magnanimousness, these characteristically Leo qualities, they are all the qualities that come from a sense of inner, intrinsic dignity and rightness of who you are. So you give of who you are. So in the Leo template, the undistorted Leo template, you give of who you are in generosity and magnanimousness to uplift, to inspire, and to bless others with your unique presence and the rightness of that presence. So there is a sacred call to be the fullness of who you are, a sacred call to fulfill who you are, to give your unique selfhood in generosity, to inspire and to bless others with your unique presence. And when you feel your own natural rightness, it also gives rise to play. Children play because they feel their own rightness, and play is a way of expressing joy because you feel the rightness of who you are. So we just wanted to enumerate, to expand on, and to describe the essential Leo template, the structure of that zodiacal energy in how it unfolds in human consciousness and also in the natural world. So a few things to think about on your own. How can you activate the Leo template inside of you to bring it into, let's say, a more balanced, more correct expression? Not being afraid of your own nobility. And then being honest. Am I depending too much on external validation of who I am without the inner peace of feeling my own rightness? Things to consider. All right, so reminding you as usual that I'm available for a range of private astrological counseling and teaching consultations, and links to that are in the description box below, where you'll also find links to join my email list to have these talks sent to your inbox. Be sure to check out the other playlists on this channel where you'll find a range of discussions, teachings, talks, seminars, podcasts, etc. So wishing you a playful and joyful and uplifting Leo new moon. And until next time, talk soon.